thing is we're trying ideas here that are a little bit more out there than what could be thought in other scenarios. So we are trying new governance ideas. We're going to be trying new governance mechanisms and so on, which is very much the point of doing this together, doing it up in the open and starting small and then scaling up.
Daniel, we had a tiny bit of lag, so you wouldn't mind just kicking off from the beginning again, just as the live was a bit behind. So just as context for everyone who's joining now, we're talking about the Aragon Network DAO. We have Daniel, who's our head of governance, and we're running through Q&A. So any questions you have, let us know in the chat. And Daniel was just doing an intro, but he'll start again and intro the AN DAO, and then we'll jump into questions.
So thank you, Alex. And so starting again, hi, everyone. As I was saying, what we are talking about here is the launch of this experimental DAO that we are going ahead with the community. We already had a vote earlier on this month or last month, where we approved the vision, essentially the Aragon Network Charter, which had the manifesto, community guidelines, and of course the governance process and some other legal documents and so on included that set the stage for us to be able to deploy this DAO. Now we're working on building those smart contracts. We have a few small adjustments to the traditional Aragon stack, a few small improvements that we are doing so we can launch these in the following days. Really, I think it might even be live this week. We'll have to confirm with our tech team, but very, very soon the infrastructure is going to be there and is already enabled for the community to start voting and start participating. So at the moment we have a decentralized identity vote. This is a requirement for the elections for the DAO that are going to be happening very soon. And so you can already make your voice heard on which would be the ideal decentralized identity solution for the Aragon network. You can find the link following our Twitter at aragonproject, and then you can vote, as I was saying. So where we are at and why is this important is, for us, is an experiment on trying forms of governance that we hope will really allow us to engage the community better, to give you more ways to contribute, and to essentially make the Aragon network an extraordinarily successful project in this stage, really powering human freedom. So in that sense, imagine an ecosystem of entrepreneurial teams offering products and services to one another. And this is the umbrella that the Aragon Network DAO hopes to enable, with multiple sub-teams or sub-DAOs, as we'll see in a second. And this should allow us to make innovation a constant, because everyone is involved, everyone is engaging, everyone cares. Our motto, govern better together, is essentially what we're aiming for. It's important in this point to really remember why decentralization is a thing, as quite often as an ecosystem like the blockchain industry is evolving, the initial ideas can get a little bit diluted. So, and even for us, where we have the Aragon Association, for example, that has been operating, it's important to remind ourselves, why is this ideal of decentralization, of human empowerment, so important, and why we should continue working towards that instead of compromising for more centralized solutions that sometimes might be an easier route. And for us, this was part of the answer. This is what we started with, but it enables hyper-scalability, better cross-pollination and innovation, as the best ideas can really come from everywhere, equality, which for us is really important, community engagement. As I was saying, we're really hoping to see you guys participate and become a bigger part of these. And as well, resilience and trust, as there is no single point of failure, is not only dependent on a few people in the small team, but we have a whole ecosystem participating and creating value together. And so the design that we come from this idea is something along these lines, in that we have a main DAO, and these main DAO where the community can express their voice and their vote directly without having to ask anyone for permission. So as long as you are an A&T holder, you can use Aragon Voice to make proposals in the main DAO. the process is explained in the AGP. To give you just a very quick overline, the way that process works is first you put a post in the Aragon forum. There is some guidelines on the format for that, and essentially you share your proposal with the community on the forum. And after a few days, depending on the type of proposal, is 7 or 10 days, but after a few days, then you can incorporate that feedback and all of the community discussions that have happened, and then move that to a vote using, at the moment, Aragon Voice. And then with that vote, the community will either approve or reject whatever the proposal was, or help you decide between different options and so on. Now, supporting this main DAO and to create further efficiency and resilience and so on, we have a range of other communities. We have the Aragon Association, which is a Swiss legal entity who's been supporting and stewarding some funds for the Aragon Network. That will continue to operate for now. And then we have the executive sub-DAO, the compliance sub-DAO, and the tech committee DAO, who will have special roles supporting the operations of this main DAO. So the executive sub-DAO will have a series of funds that are delegated to it for quick decision-making, to give continuity to decisions as well, and as well to support with a lot of the tasks that really don't require the whole community to come together to make a decision. It's like, should we invest a very small amount of A&T, say 50 A&T, to buy some paper clips? This is a stupid example, but if we wanted to buy some paper clips, do we really need to hold a community vote, or can there be a subsection of the community that we trust to have a good criteria and manage a subset of the funds on our behalf? And so this is what the executive sub-DAO is aimed to enable, as well as having a chief role, the people who participate here having a chief role, facilitating a conversation community-wide around our strategy or priorities or areas of focus and so on. So they are both facilitators of the broader community conversation, as well as having a smaller, as a sort of financial director would be perhaps an equivalent to a Web2 concept. Financial directors managing a subset of the funds. Then we have the tech committee. So whenever a proposal is approved, either by the executive sub-DAO or by the main DAO that involves code, the tech committee is there to make the decision whether that proposal requires a third-party audit or whether it can be deployed directly. So we know that in some cases when there is very small adjustments to a contract, a change in parameter, a small thing, really, there is no need to go through the process of an official tech audit. It would be very expensive, slow, time-consuming, and so on. So at those points, the tech committee will immediately deploy that code. Or if the tech audit is required, they will be responsible for keeping a list of tech auditors that we can trust and so on. And they will organize with them to have the code audited. And then the executive sub-DAO will be the first point of call to pay for that audit. If the executive sub-DAO doesn't have funds, then the executive sub-DAO can ask the main DAO for extra funds for these sort of operational needs. Then we have the compliance sub-DAO who's operating as a sort of guardian of last resort for the network. But the first guardians is the community at large. So if the executive sub-DAO has a schedule an action, or through the main DAO, there is an action schedule that goes against the agreement of the community, against the Aragon Network Charter, then any member of the community can use Aragon Court to challenge that action, to challenge that proposal, and send it to court, where the Aragon Court guardians will adjudicate whether it was indeed against the agreements of the community, against the Aragon Network Charter, and in which case it will be canceled, and the person who scheduled the action will lose their collateral. Now, in case of last resort, as I was saying, we also have a team who would be facilitating a conversation around compliance, facilitating a conversation around ethics, and who will have veto power if needed to stop a proposal from going through that they deem unsafe, that they deem violates the agreements of the network. So for that, we'll have 3 positions elected in the executive sub-DAO, 3 positions on the compliance sub-DAO, and 3 in the tech committee, while Aragon Court, any ANT holder who has sufficient ANT, they can stake ANT to become a juror in Aragon Court and be rewarded if they get drafted for a case. So we have these 3 sub-DAOs who, together with Aragon Court, help to add extra functionalities to the main DAO in terms of efficiency, continuity, security, audits, and so on. So now I'm going to open up to questions. Just to say, what we have at the moment is the option through the Aragon forum. There you can see the full descriptions for these roles in the executive sub-DAO, in the compliance sub-DAO, and the tech committee. You can already apply. Several people have already applied. I myself am interested in continuing to support the network through a position in the executive sub-DAO. So please, it's open to anyone. And if you have any questions, now is the time. Just ask Alex through the chat, and I'll be here to answer.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. And thanks for the introduction. I've posted the forums if anyone's looking in there, looking for the election process. Can you just, Daniel, run through exactly what the election process is, timescales, where those votes will take place eventually? Is it Aragon Voice? What's the sort of process there?
Sure, thank you, Alex. So the process is already running with what the community approved in the Aragon Network Charter. So for elections, the Aragon Network Charter stipulates that a forum post with the election, with the post that's up for elections, need to be made and published for a minimum of 10 days. And that anyone who wants to apply to be a candidate, they just need to reply to that forum post. So the forum post already happened a few days ago. It would be, or it happened on the 1st. So by the 11th would be the earliest date that someone in the community could launch the vote. Now, that's if no one has launched the vote by then, essentially I would have I would at some point end up launching the vote. Whether I launch it on the 11th or a little bit later will depend on the amount of candidates that we have received, on my own impressions of what would be a good date. The charter stipulates that it's a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 30 dates. So it will happen in that period. Then once the vote launches, it will be launched on Aragon Voice. And again, any ANT holder can just go to the Voice website, and there they can use their ANT to exercise their right to choose between candidates. And the winning candidate will be elected, knowing that for this first year, the community will be electing 1 candidate in each of the sub-DAOs, and the Aragon Association will be electing 2 candidates there. So, however, for the next year, that's going to change and be the other way around. So it follows this roadmap for increasingly handing power and control directly to the community.
Perfect, brilliant. And are elections yearly, or can they be called at any time?
Elections are yearly, but they can also be called early by any member of the community. The idea is that this serves as a measure of last resort. Like, so for example, the compliance committee, let's imagine we had an attacker elected for the compliance committee. They pretended to be a good person. They are not. They are there to disrupt the Aragon network, and they are vetoing every single proposal. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. They're just vetoing everything. So in this case, the community could make a proposal to remove them from the compliance committee. And in fact, it's stipulated that the compliance committee cannot veto elections on the committee. They can veto everything else, but not elections on the committee. So similar way, the community could choose to remove or replace someone in one of the other DAOs early. But this is more if needed. And then in general, it will happen every year, knowing as well that whoever has been elected for 3 years in a row cannot participate the following year. And this is to allow for a bit of rotation and so on, while also keeping continuity.
Brilliant. That's perfect. And obviously, you were talking about malicious actors there being not who they say they are. I know we're doing a proposal at the moment from an identity solution perspective. Do you want to touch on that and the reason behind using an identity solution?
Sure, thank you. So some of the criticism that we have seen for different DAOs, especially those who, are not really a DAO, that are based around a multi-sig, is that all the wallets could be controlled by a single individual. So in practice, we would still have that single point of failure. If that individual gets run by a boss, then the whole DAO, the whole network is essentially blocked. So there are even worse scenarios out there. But so what we're doing is that every candidate will need to verify a unique human, that behind that wallet there is a single human, and it's not the same behind other wallets who are applying as candidates as well. And this allows us to keep a minimum level of decentralization of power in the community. And so right now we have a vote for the community to choose which decentralized identity solution provider is the one that we will use to start with for these elections. And if I'm not mistaken, that vote closes on the 11th. So there is still a few days to vote and join that conversation.
Brilliant. Perfect. Question around what Aragon product are we going to be using for the DAO, Daniel? Are the sub-DAOs using Aragon Govern, or are some of them using client templates? What's the sort of plan there?
The sub-DAOs, so actually the tech committee is not using a DAO yet because they are not managing funds. They don't really have any necessary permissions. There is still an interface with the Web2 world. Right now, the code base for a lot of Aragon products is based on GitHub. So they simply take the proposals and action them in GitHub. So they're not a DAO. But in the future, we could explore DAOifying them and using some of the nascent competitors for Web3. As for the other two, for the main DAO, the executive sub-DAO and the compliance committee sub-DAO, they're based on Aragon Govern technology.
Brilliant, excellent. Exciting to see it getting used in such an innovative way. And all going to be on Ethereum, Daniel, not on other chains.
So for now, we are indeed only based on Ethereum. That's why, in part, we're using Aragon Voice to enable gasless voting so the community can participate at a low cost. That being said, we're working on some ideas that might allow us to transfer to other chains as well, or help them operate cross-chain. So instead of having to deploy an Aragon Network DAO in multiple chains and then having a bit of a nightmare of, how much, I don't know, of network X voted on these versus how much of Ethereum holders voted on that, and trying to calculate that, we might be creating a meta DAO, but this is all for the R&D tech team to explore over the coming months.
Brilliant, perfect. And what's the minimum amount of ANT needed to participate in the governance decisions, Daniel?
So actually, just a fraction. So someone who has 0.001 ANT, they can create a proposal in Voice, but then to actually schedule that action. So if someone wanted to gather feedback from the community and so on, again, with Voice, it's very easy, it's very democratic, anyone can do it. To schedule an action in Govern, the threshold is a little bit higher. And from the top of my mind, I think we set it at 50 ANT minimum to schedule that. So at the moment, that's coming to around $200 worth of ANT. But that will depend on market conditions.
Perfect, fantastic. And that jumps into the next question, which is how does a community member go about making a proposal, either for, say, a grant or for a direction for the DAO to take? What's that sort of process flow look like? Is it put a proposal straight onto Aragon Govern, or how do they sort of influence the direction, if that makes sense, and participate in the direction of the DAO?
Yeah, so thank you. So it's important to understand that, or at least the mental framework that I use for proposals is movement building. is you will have to convince a bunch of people. And so you want to test whether it's a good idea at the small scale. So start by telling a couple of friends, a couple of people to give you feedback to help you improve the proposal, to get that collective intelligence going. And one very easy way to do that is join or Discord chat, write 2-3 paragraphs about what you're about and get some feedback on it. Say, hey, community, maybe in the community discussions general channel, you can do that and say, I'm thinking about proposing these. What do you think? How would that look like? And so on. From that stage and starting to create a few conversations whenever you feel ready. And I mean, you could do these from the beginning if you wanted to, but whenever you feel ready, you can then go to the forum and just put the proposal in the forum. It needs to be, if it's a financial proposal or generally any type of proposal except an election, it needs to be in the form of a forum post for 7 days, and then it can go to a vote in Voice. Or if it's an election, it needs to be in the forum for 10 days for people to submit their candidacy for that election. And then you have the Voice proposal, which makes it official, essentially proves that the community indeed approves and believes it's a good idea. And at that point, once it's been approved, anyone can schedule it in Aragon Govern. And it could be you, it can be someone else, and it just gets executed.
Perfect. That was going to be what hang on, just lost the next question. Seconds. Yeah, that was going to be the next question, was around which identity solutions are currently being proposed.
So we have Bright ID, IDENA, Proof of Humanity, Humanoid, which is an earlier stage solution, and as well the IOTA DID framework was proposed. They were the last ones to enter the race.
Excellent. Four horse race. Brilliant. We like that. And then can you just touch a little bit on, obviously there's going to be funds distributed from the AA into the AN DAO. What's the sort of schedule for that? I'm sure community is sort of interested in what that sort of process will look like.
Sure. So the AA has approved seed funding for the DAO of about 300,000. That's going to be distributed off the top of my head in ANT, ETH, and DAI. If I'm not mistaken, maybe it's USDT or USDC or something like that instead of DAI. But essentially in a stable coin, in ETH, and in ANT tokens to be transferred in this quarter. And then for the next quarter, so beginning of next year, we would be, if this first experimental testing phase goes well, then moving forward, we would be looking at a way bigger round to be deployed, and we could even be looking into the hundreds of millions over the next 2 years to be deployed into the DAO. And on that, actually, that reminds me, one thing that we are toying about is to offer bounties for a penetration test throughout this quarter. So if you want to try to hack the Aragon Network DAO, please go ahead. You have the next 2 months to try that idea, and just let us know how you did it, and we'll celebrate you in this first experimental phase. So that's a bit of a challenge for the community to play with our own governance and test these systems.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we have three sort of sub-DAOs initially. Obviously there's going to be a lot of funds eventually. Are there plans for other sub-DAOs to be introduced, or would there potentially be talking potentially about guilds, separate teams within the AN DAO eventually?
So there has been, I already heard multiple ideas for sub-DAOs to be created. This is now more my personal views. I'm not representing or trying to communicate what the Aragon Network Charter says or necessarily the community consensus. It's just my personal view that is, in many situations, there is no need to launch a sub-DAO is enough to just request funds and operate as a team. You can receive a grant as a team or something like that, or even as an individual if you're doing a thing. Or you can just do some work. Also join some of the community contributor programs that we have. So right now we have the Aragon Ambassadors program. You can join that, and there is ways to be rewarded for work that you're doing, even continuous work as a team in a specific area. So not every use case requires a sub-DAO, but some of the ideas that have been coming around is around an integrations sub-DAO. So this would be a team dedicated to connecting the Aragon stack, the Aragon technology, with other solutions and create interoperability across the blockchain ecosystem.
Brilliant, perfect. And then you touched on Aragon Ambassadors there. Are there going to be tiers of contributors? Is everyone going to be on the same level? Or will different people be able to participate in bounties? Will there be sort of expertise attached to those? Just so we get an idea of who can participate from a value perspective.
Thank you. So these we're discussing as well at the moment with some of the Aragon Association team who have been spearheading the Ambassadors program. From my side, I've been mostly concentrated on thinking about the sort of infrastructure technology for rewarding people. So in these early stages, this is going to continue to evolve a lot. But what we are envisioning is a sort of funnel or tier system where at the first stages, you can join the community and you can start to do micro tasks to start to get involved, gain context, understand what's going on. Then you join the Ambassadors program. And once you have joined this Ambassadors program, you get onboarded, you will have access to certain things that non-ambassadors don't have, or at least that are less open for the rest of the community. And at this point, you can also participate in bounties, get rewarded through, at the moment, we're trialing SourceCred as an experiment. We're also going to be trialing Coordinate and other technologies and other ways to start to go from the ambassadors who are probably starting to do micro tasks or small bounties here and there, and slowly allow these contributors to then go into more team-oriented work in specific verticals. One vertical that I'm hoping to build a virtual team around is a sort of R&D laboratory to prototype and test new DGov functionalities, DGov tools. We'll also be building a team around Aragon Court. We're also exploring the idea of decentralized customer support, and like this, there is now a long list of ideas that is being developed, and the community contributors will have the opportunity to join these programs and even to lead some of these programs should they be interested, have the right skills, and so on. Because, of course, we're trying to create work where anyone can contribute, anyone can benefit from being part of this network and help us grow and achieve our mission to empower and create freedom for humanity. But certain tasks require specialized skills. So we are, like everyone else, looking for probably Solidity developers. If you're interested, if you know about Solidity, just let us know. We'll love to have you. And for everyone else, don't worry. There is always something that you can contribute with your experience, with your point of view, and your expertise.
Perfect, brilliant. And then just one final question that we're not limited to any country, anywhere, anyone can contribute from anywhere in the globe. Is that right?
International, you will have to check your local regulation to know how this operates with the nation state in which you're based. But as far as the Aragon Network is concerned, we are international, global from day one. This is how we were born, and this is how we're hoping to stay. I do believe that at the moment, the Ambassadors program is restricted for anyone who is a minor. But if you're a minor and would like to find ways out to us, this might change, or we might have some solution for you to be confirmed. But don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Brilliant, perfect. Anything you want to end on, Daniel?
I think this has given a good overview. I would just like to encourage anyone who's still hesitating to participate is you can always join our community channel, especially Discord, and get involved in the conversations. Say hello. talk a little bit about yourself, and we'll do our best to welcome you with open arms. We're busy like everyone else, but we really have set this intention for us to create a really engaged, powerful seed of a community this coming quarter. And this is all about helping you and enabling you, the community, to take ownership of this network and take it forward. So thank you very much for tuning in, and hope to see you very soon in our channels.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Daniel, and thanks for taking the time to come out and talk about such an important project for Aragon and the future. So it was great to have you answer all the questions. If anyone is around tomorrow, same time, we'll be having the community call as well, where there's lots of news, but this topic required its own separate stream. So look forward to welcoming you all back tomorrow again. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Daniel.
Thank you. All right.